The wind cut across the base like a knife the morning she arrived, sharp, cold, and carrying the weight of something no one could name. Soldiers hurried across the yard, boots slamming against concrete, engines running, radios buzzing. Everyone was busy, everyone except the woman stepping out of the rusted military transport van. She walked slowly, quietly, like someone who didn't want attention, but somehow drew it anyway. Her clothes were plain, her backpack was old, faded, and small enough to look almost empty. She had no visible rank, no patches, no unit insignia, just a hood pulled low and a calmness that didn't match the chaos around her. But that was the thing, calmness on a military base was suspicious. And suspicion spreads faster than truth. This is United War, and today's story isn't about a general, a soldier, or a legend returning from glory. It's about the unknown woman whose forgotten backpack held something impossible, something forbidden, something that froze trained soldiers in place, something that had no right to exist. But none of them knew that yet. The checkpoint. Private Dalton, barely 19, was the first to stop her. "Ma'am, this area is restricted. I'm going to need to check your ID." The woman lifted her head just slightly, not enough to reveal her eyes, not enough to reveal who she was, just enough to show she had heard him. She handed him a folded piece of paper, old, creased, almost fragile. Dalton frowned. This doesn't look like any base pass I've ever seen." Behind him, Sergeant Hale crossed his arms and stepped forward. "Backpack too," Hale said. "Put it on the table." The woman paused for just a moment, a tiny moment, and Hale caught it. "Something wrong?" he asked. She shook her head once and placed the backpack on the inspection table. No one expected anything dramatic. No one expected anything valuable. And definitely no one expected anything dangerous, not from a quiet woman with a worn-out pack. But the moment the zipper opened, the air around them changed. What they found first. Dalton reached inside and pulled out a notebook. Old, leather-bound, the corners torn. Next, a single pair of gloves. Thin, precise, the type a surgeon might use, not a soldier. Next, an ID tag, with no name, no number, no blood type. Just a blank metal surface. Dalton whispered, "What even is this?" Hale leaned closer. "This is all weird," he muttered. "Where did you get—" But the sentence stopped mid-air when Dalton reached deeper into the bag. His hand touched something cold, something heavy, something shaped perfectly, deliberately, dangerously. The metal object. Dalton pulled it out slowly, expecting maybe a weapon, or worse, a device. But the object he held wasn't a gun, and it wasn't explosive. It was a medal, but not any medal, not one ever issued by the Army or the Navy or any branch of the U.S. military. This medal was black, pure black, with a thin crimson line running across its center, like a wound sealed shut. The metal didn't shine, it absorbed the light around it. Hale's mouth dried. Dalton's hands trembled. I've seen medals," the private whispered. But not this. What is this?" Hale shook his head. "That's impossible," he said. "Those were destroyed decades ago." The woman didn't react, didn't move, didn't speak. She simply stood there, patient, silent, as if she had expected this moment, as if she knew exactly how they would respond. The medal that shouldn't exist. Hale stepped back. "Private, Put that down. But Sarge, I don't understand. That's not something we're supposed to have on base. That's not something anyone is supposed to have. He looked at the woman. Who are you? She finally lifted her head, revealing only a sliver of her face, but enough for Hale to see something chilling. She wasn't shocked. She wasn't confused. She wasn't even worried. She was waiting. Ma'am, Hale said, voice tighter now. I'm asking you directly, where did you get this? Her answer was quiet, calm, and carried the weight of dozen buried secrets. It was awarded. Classified operation. No records permitted. Hale froze. Dalton swallowed. Because there was only one kind of mission that produced a medal like that. One mission whispered about in the darkest corners of Black Ops history. One mission that every soldier was taught to never mention. A mission so secret, its participants were officially listed as deceased. And anyone who still carried the medal wasn't supposed to be alive. The crowd gathers. More soldiers approached, more eyes saw the black medal, and one by one, every expression changed. Confusion, fear, recognition, and then silence. An entire checkpoint worth of trained professionals frozen by something smaller than a palm. Not because it was dangerous, but because of what it meant. This woman didn't just belong to a classified unit. She belonged to the unit. The one no one spoke about. The one no records exist for. The one commanders themselves feared to acknowledge. And suddenly the question wasn't, who is she? It was, how is she still alive? Hale's realization. Sergeant Hale stepped forward, lowering his voice. Ma'am, only one person ever received this medal. Only one. And she died years ago on a mission nobody survived. The woman lifted her head fully now. Her hood slipped back just enough to reveal her eyes, cold, sharp, confident. I didn't die. I finished the mission. The wind stopped. Dalton dropped the notebook. And Hale, for the first time in his career, took one step back. Because if she was who he thought she was, if the medal was real, then the base wasn't just dealing with a stranger. They were dealing with a ghost from the deepest part of Black Ops history. A ghost never meant to return. A ghost carrying a medal that wasn't supposed to exist. The checkpoint fell silent, so silent that even the constant drone of helicopters felt distant, like the world itself was holding its breath. The woman's hood rested on her shoulders now, and for the first time, the soldiers saw her fully. Sharp eyes, calm posture, a face that carried more stories than years. Sergeant Hale didn't know whether to salute her or call backup. Private Dalton didn't know whether to stand at attention or run. But both of them knew one thing. They were standing in front of someone who wasn't supposed to exist. Ma'am? Hale tried again, swallowing hard. You survived that mission, then you're... Don't say the name. Hale froze. Dalton blinked. Why wouldn't she allow it? She continued quietly. Some things buried should stay buried. Names, units, operations, mine included. But that only made the tension deeper, because if her name was secret, if even speaking it could cause problems, then her presence on base was not just unexpected, it was dangerous. The medal under the sun. The black medal lay on the inspection table, absorbing the morning light like a void. Soldiers standing nearby stared at it with a kind of reverence, mixed with fear. It wasn't just forbidden. It was legendary. Dalton whispered, "Sergeant, this metal, isn't it tied to—" Hale snapped softly, "Don't finish that sentence." Because the story behind that metal wasn't written in any file. It wasn't logged in any archive. It wasn't something you talked about. It was something you feared. One mission, 17 operatives. Only one returned. Officially, all 17 were declared dead. Unofficially, no one ever found 16 bodies. And the one who came back never appeared again. Not even a shadow. Until now. The arrival of the MPs. 2 military police officers approached from across the yard, boots echoing loudly. They weren't running, just walking, but their faces told everyone they had already been briefed. "Sergeant Hale," the officer said, eyes locked on the woman. "Is this the individual?" Hale nodded slowly. The MP opened a folder. "She's not in any personnel database." "She wouldn't be," Hale replied. The MP hesitated. "Orders?" We don't have any." The other MP stepped forward. "Ma'am, we need to search the rest of your belongings and bring you to command." Before anyone could react, the woman calmly zipped the backpack shut and slung it over her shoulder. "You can search me, but only in front of your commanding officer." Dalton frowned. "Why? What's wrong with us checking?" She replied without raising her voice. "Because your superiors will need to verify the authenticity of what's inside. You won't understand it." Her tone wasn't insulting. It was factual, cold, neutral, experienced. She wasn't challenging them. She was saving them. The walk across the base. They escorted her through the yard, through rows of soldiers, vehicles, and watchtowers. And with each step, more eyes followed her. Whispers spread. "Who is she? Why is she with MPs? Why is everyone acting weird?" No one recognized her, but every senior soldier who caught even a glimpse of the black metal lying on the table behind them went pale. One lieutenant actually dropped his clipboard. Another stepped backwards like he'd seen something supernatural. Dalton jogged to catch up. "Ma'am, with all due respect, why come here? Why this base?" She looked at him with an expression he didn't expect. Sadness. "This wasn't my choice." "Then whose choice?" "Theirs." Dalton felt a chill. The way she said theirs, not command, not HQ, not the Pentagon, but them. Who were they? The command building. The group entered a steel gray hallway lined with photos of decorated officers. They knocked. A voice answered, "Enter." Inside sat Colonel Briggs, broad-shouldered, stern, the kind of man who could put fear into anyone just by sitting still. He was surrounded by files, maps, operational reports. He didn't even look up when they entered. "Report." Hale nudged Dalton, who whispered, Sir, we found something in her bag." Colonel Briggs sighed. "Contraband, a weapon, forged papers." "No, sir," Hale said. "It's a medal?" That made the colonel look up. And the moment he saw it through the door's small window, still lying on the distant inspection table, he stopped breathing. The colonel stood up so fast his chair almost toppled. "That's not possible." The woman stepped forward. "Permission to speak freely, Colonel." Colonel Briggs stared at her, eyes wide. "Ma'am, if you are who I think you are, permission granted." Dalton blinked. Hale stiffened. The MPs exchanged glances. Because colonels didn't call strangers ma'am.
Colonels didn't stand up for unknown civilians. Colonels didn't give permission. Unless she outranked him. Unless she outranked everyone. The closed-door meeting. Briggs gestured for everyone to leave the room except her, but as they turned to exit, she spoke. No, they stay. They've already seen too much. The colonel hesitated, and then nodded. The MPs closed the door behind them. Briggs lowered his voice. Why are you here? Why reveal yourself now? She placed the old backpack on his desk. The operation we completed years ago. Colonel Briggs raised a hand. We don't discuss that. She continued anyway. It's happening again. The colonel's face went pale. You mean? Yes, she said. The same threat, the same signatures, the same pattern. Hale felt his stomach twist. Dalton stopped breathing. She exhaled slowly. And you're not prepared. The file that shouldn't exist. She opened her backpack again, removing not the metal this time, but a thin metallic case. Locked. Sealed. No markings. Colonel Briggs stared at it as if seeing a ghost. That case was destroyed, he whispered. The director himself ordered. They lied. It was never destroyed. I was its keeper. Dalton felt his knees weaken. She set the case down gently. If you open this without authorization, the alarms will trigger across every intelligence agency in the country. Then why bring it here? Briggs asked. Because the person authorized to open it is on his way. Who? Hale whispered. She looked at him. The last surviving commander of the Black Operations Group. Briggs nearly collapsed. He died. So did I, she replied. But apparently, we're both still here. The chopper. Outside, a helicopter began descending, faster than protocol, louder than usual, clearing soldiers away with frantic hand signals. Briggs swallowed. That must be him. The woman nodded once. Dalton peered through the window as the chopper touched down. A tall figure stepped out. Gray hair, dark glasses, a uniform with no patches. A man whose presence made every soldier instinctively stand straight. The kind of man who commanded wars without ever being seen. As he approached the building, Hale whispered, "Who is he?" The woman watched the door. He is the only man who knows the truth.
The helicopter blades were still spinning when the man stepped onto the tarmac. Soldiers nearby stiffened instinctively, not because they recognized him, but because something about him radiated authority. He didn't need rank patches. He didn't need introductions. He was the introduction. Sergeant Hale watched through the window as the man walked toward the command building with steady, deliberate steps. "Who is that?" Dalton whispered. The woman didn't answer with words. She simply straightened her posture. Colonel Briggs exhaled, almost trembling. "That man has no official rank anymore," he muttered. "But the last time he stepped on a base, every four-star general in the room stood for him." Dalton frowned. "That doesn't even make sense." "It's not supposed to," the woman said quietly. "Because men like him didn't exist on paper. They existed in the shadows between wars, in the missions that never made it to files." A knock echoed through the room, sharp, confident. Before anyone could respond, the door opened. The man walked in. Silence swept over the room like a wave. Hale swallowed. Dalton straightened. The MPs didn't even blink. It felt like the world held its breath. His eyes, invisible behind tinted glasses, locked on to the woman first. He spoke one word. "You." Not a question, not a greeting, a recognition. She nodded respectfully. "Commander."
Briggs blinked. Commander? He retired before you joined the service, Colonel, he said without turning to him. His voice was low, steady, controlled, like someone who had spent decades giving orders that shaped entire conflicts. He stepped closer to the woman. I was told you were gone. She looked him directly in the eyes. I was told the same about you. The case. The commander lifted the metallic case from Briggs' desk with the ease of someone handling something sacred. You carried this, all this time, he asked. Yes, because someone had to. He ran his fingers over the smooth metal surface. No labels, no locks, no seams. Invisible security tech beyond typical military design. Then, he spoke softly. Open it. Even the air paused. She placed her thumb on the top, then her palm. A faint pulse of light flickered. Hidden mechanisms whirred faintly. A seam split open down the middle with absolute precision. Inside was a thin folder sealed in polymer, stamped with symbols none of the junior soldiers recognized, but Briggs recognized them. His face drained of color. Those markings, that's an Omega directive, Dalton whispered. What's an Omega directive? No, Briggs said sharply. Classified above generals. You're not even supposed to know the term. The commander lifted the sealed folder, his jaw tightening. It's worse than we thought. He opened the polymer seal with a magnetic key embedded in his ring, something old, worn, and unmistakably operational. Inside was a thin folder with satellite images, heat signatures, encrypted diagrams, and a map marked with circles. 6 of them. He placed the images on the desk. Colonel, Sergeant, every soldier in this room needs to listen carefully. He pointed to the first image. These signatures disappeared 5 years ago. Destroyed, erased, gone. He tapped the next. They're back. The woman stepped forward. And if they're back, then the weapon we contained years ago is being rebuilt. Dalton blinked. But what weapon? The commander said nothing at first. Then he looked at him slowly. The one that wiped an entire facility clean in 6 minutes. Dalton's mouth dried. What kind of weapon can do that? She answered quietly. The kind that doesn't leave debris. The room goes silent. Briggs wiped sweat from his forehead. This can't be happening again. We shut that program down. We burned everything. You burned what you knew, she said. The commander nodded. But someone else, someone higher, preserved what they shouldn't have. Hale frowned. Higher? You mean intelligence? The woman shook her head. Higher. Then who? The commander leaned in, voice dropping. There is an agency above intelligence, above defense, above the Pentagon. A group that only answers to 2 signatures in this country. Briggs stiffened. You don't mean... Yes, the commander cut in. The directors. Dalton frowned. Directors of what? The commander looked at him with pity. You don't want to know. Why she returned. Hale pointed at the black metal still on the table. Sir, this metal, she said it wasn't supposed to exist. The commander looked at it, jaw tight. It isn't. That metal was only awarded once, to the sole survivor of Omega Unit. Dalton turned slowly toward the woman. You survived that? She didn't answer at first. Then she nodded once. No one else walked out. I didn't walk out by choice. Her voice was calm, but something behind it sounded cracked. The commander spoke. You were never meant to come back, but you were too good to lose. She stared at him. You knew I was alive. He nodded. I had to make the world think you weren't. Hale swallowed. Why? Because every enemy and every nation would have hunted you, including us. Dalton took a step back. Why would our own people hunt her? The commander turned toward him with a kind of sadness, because she's the only person alive who knows how to stop what's coming. The base is compromised. Suddenly, a distant alarm blared. Briggs froze. That's the perimeter alert. The commander snapped to attention. How long has it been going off for? Just started now, Briggs said, checking his display. The woman stepped toward the blinds and pulled them open. Dalton followed her gaze, and his stomach dropped. Dark vehicles, unmarked, dozens of them, rolling through the base gates as if they had full authorization. Soldiers outside weren't stopping them. They weren't even questioning them. Hale muttered, "What the hell? This base is locked to outsiders." "Not to them," she whispered. The commander turned sharply. "Everyone away from the windows, now." Briggs grabbed his radio. "Gate, this is Colonel Briggs. Identify those vehicles." Dalton's voice shook. "They're not here for us, are they?" The woman watched the convoy approach. "No," she said. "They're here for me." Her final warning. The commander closed the metallic case and handed it back to her. "You know what this means." "I do." "You know they won't let you leave." "I know." "Then why come?" She looked at him, and for the first time there was something human in her voice. "Because I'm not running anymore." Briggs stepped back from the window. "What do we do?" The commander exhaled hard. "We prepare for a breach." Dalton's voice shook. "Sir, who are these people?" The woman answered without turning. "The ones who were sent to erase me last time." Dalton blinked. "And now?" She looked out the window, calm, unafraid. "They're here to finish the job."
The room felt heavier than stone. No one spoke. The medal of no return, an honor never publicly acknowledged, was now lying on the metal table under the harsh white light. Every soldier who had dumped out Elena Rios's backpack stood completely frozen, their breaths tight, their stomachs sinking. Major Harlow swallowed hard. He had once laughed at rumors of ghost operators, individuals so classified that even generals were denied information about them. He never believed they actually existed. And now, one of them stood right in front of him. Calm, still, watching them quietly pick themselves apart with fear. But Elena didn't say a word. She didn't gloat, didn't smirk, she didn't even demand respect. She simply lifted the medal with 2 fingers and slipped it inside her uniform. Then she spoke. Finally, her voice calm but sharp enough to cut through steel. "What you saw, you never saw. Clear?" Every soldier nodded, some stiffly, some with obvious shame. But the tension didn't break, not even for a second, because at that moment, the reinforced steel door behind them slid open with a low mechanical grind. A man entered. Not just any man, Admiral Rowan Hale, a figure so legendary some believed he had retired years ago to avoid unwanted questions about the missions he led. Yet here he was, walking straight toward Elena with a look of recognition in his eyes. The soldiers instantly snapped to attention. Rowan didn't acknowledge them. His focus was entirely on her. He stopped inches away from her and gave something no one expected. A salute. Slow, formal, deeply respectful. The room collectively inhaled. Elena returned the salute, but barely. It was subtle, almost reluctant, but it was enough to confirm what everyone feared. She outranked him, too. With authority that didn't exist on paper. Harlow felt his knees weaken. Admiral Rowan turned to the soldiers, his voice calm but thunderous. "You are standing in the presence of the most decorated operator in modern Black Zone warfare. If she wants your facility, your command, or your clearance, she gets it." A ripple of shock swept through the room. Elena stepped past Rowan, not aggressively, just with purpose. She moved like a woman who had gone into darkness so deep that normal people couldn't even imagine the air down there.
Rowan followed. "Your transport is ready," he said quietly. Elena paused at the doorway and finally turned back toward the soldiers. Her eyes were steady, unreadable, scarred by wars they'd never be cleared to hear about. She said, "I wasn't here to impress you. I was here to test you." Confusion flickered in their faces. "Some of you passed. Some of you failed. That's all." And with that, she left. The soldiers watched as she and Admiral Rowan walked down the dim corridor, disappearing into the classified wing of the facility. Harlow exhaled shakily. Private Mills whispered, barely audible, "What missions do you think she completed to earn that medal?" Harlow didn't answer. He didn't want to imagine the cost of something the government swore didn't exist. But one thing was certain. They had humiliated a woman who had walked through nightmares none of them were trained enough to understand. And she had handled them with more restraint than any of them deserved. Back inside the restricted wing, Elena finally spoke to Rowan. "They weren't ready." Rowan nodded. "Most aren't." He handed her a sealed folder. Black cover, no markings, triple-coated. "New target?" she asked. Rowan's voice dropped. "Worse. A ghost we thought we buried." Elena opened the file. What she saw made her expression finally shift, very slightly. A threat returning. One she had faced before. One she thought she had ended. The Admiral continued, "We need you again. The medal may not officially exist, but the job still does." Elena closed the folder slowly. Her answer was simple. "Then let's finish it." Rowan nodded with relief. As they walked deeper into the unmarked corridor, the door behind them sealed shut with a heavy metallic lock. Outside, none of the soldiers dared to speak again, because now they understood. She wasn't a rumor. She wasn't a myth. She wasn't a ghost. She was the person the ghosts were afraid of. And her next mission was already in motion.